setting the stage for this forum to discuss such a important and critical subject that we all want to hear more and more and more, though we are a part of this whole thing. To start with, this morning when I was attending Swamiji's lecture and then Acharya's session, one thing which struck me is, are we being mechanical, or are we really, do we really mean what we say? So, when we introduce ourselves, when we talk about the subject, is there any feeling here? What are we trying to do? So, coming back to the subject of global leaders and having innovative approaches, I'm sure all of us are touched upon by this subject. Can I know how many of us are here who are coming from a multinational background? Great. So I have a lot of supporters. And how many of you are planning to make a global career? Only few. Why? I remember sometime back when I was a kid, we all have heard a song by a famous Raj Kapoor. What's that song? Mera juta hai Japani and Patloon Englishstani. Sar pe laal topi Rusi fir bhi dil hai Hindustani. I think that was the stage, that was the era, that was the time when we used to be, when we were kids, our neighbor next door neighbor, when he used to go to Dubai or some foreign country, comes with a lot of chocolates, goodies and some electronics, we was thinking, wow, this is what are, these are the global products that we don't get to see here. Or these are the people who are working. Then came the time when we have come across a beautiful song made in India. Do you remember that? Who sang that song? Right. So India has transformed a lot, and from the time when Made in India came and to now, it's almost like maybe another 20 years, and we have gone beyond that. We have gone beyond that. So I guess it's time for us to think what really global leadership means in India, for us, for the global organizations, and for us for being in India. I don't think basically some of the capabilities of leadership of a global leader has changed over the years, in the last 100 years. You still need somebody who's very inspired. You still need somebody who's people-oriented. You still need people who can connect with the cultures. It's just that now you are well connected and wired. And that's what brings us to this subject. So what we'll do is to go through quickly some slides. I know it's time. What does this global leadership mean to us, and how do we move forward from there? Now is the time that we have seen globally. There are companies which would procure their raw material or parts from country A, assemble in country B, and market in country C. This is a true global organization. Now, how many of us are here, which is something, into a similar business? Yes, sir, please. Which company do you, or which organization? Yeah?
From Excel accounts.
Right.
So we are in 31 countries, we operate and we are completely global in terms of services, in terms of production, in terms of building assets. So we have, I think, pretty lucky. So we are very much a global organization.
seen a lot of companies moving in India, investing a lot, though in the last few years the FDI count has reduced in India, but still India happens to be a hotspot. The IT, supply chain challenges, all these things are helping us to get integrated, to be more powerful and become a more global leader. What does this mean? This means that today we are all working on one stage and globe. Our world is one stage. Whether you talk about McDonald's, Starbucks, or the Acer Taiwan product or Lenovo China, laptops, everything is available today as part of the globalization that is happening. This is something that's very interesting, and I'm sure all of us have a lot to say. What does global leadership talent mean? I would like to ask this young lady sitting here next who told that she is part of one of the organization which has. Anything that strikes you, what does global leadership talent mean? Yeah.
I think it's all about the mindset of thinking of how we look at it, how I approach it, and how do I work across different teams, irrespective of the geographies. How do I bring them? How do I bring my people together and work as a team? So because different people, especially if we are a multinational company, you want to have multinational projects, you want to work on site, whether you're a manufacturing company or a servicing company. Now, people from various geographies have different strengths, weaknesses, style of working. Yeah. So how do you gather people's strengths together and make them work together? I think is a key challenge for a lot of people, and a lot of people are not able to do it.
Right, you're right. So, did you listen? She did not talk anything about the skill sets, her functional capabilities, or the need. It is all about how do we get connected, how do we think globally, how can we develop alliances, partnerships. You have people spread across all the regions and so on.
The other point I think is very adaptive. So if you have the other point I would say is that one needs to be very adaptive and flexible for that particular point or for that particular challenge in question, because things are changing. It's not only the change you need to adapt to, you need to also adapt to the culture, to the situation. Yeah? Because you may find a certain client, a certain country where decision-making process is very slow. Yeah? The way of working, whereas you go to probably Netherlands, right? People are very upfront on face, right? So you need to know how do you maneuver in that particular situation, whether you are selling or whether you are creating a solution or whether you're delivering a solution.
That's right. This is a very, very, very important aspect. When you work with multicultural or multicultural set of people, this is something which is always a challenge. And I remember reading once a professional from Texas, US, went to China and started his meeting with a good, nice hug to the lady. And in China, physical contact is not appreciated. Now this is where the cultural differences matter a lot when you are in a group. I also remember one example where in Argentina, one of the US guys went and he started to build a rapport or that connectedness. He started calling people by their first name, what he read in the name. And I understand in Argentina, it's normally the father's name first, the mother's name first, and then his name. So when he understood that this is what is the culture of the company or the way the society works, it creates a challenge. So to move forward, this was a small video that I could lay my hands on, and it really tells us what this global leadership talent. 5 minutes. Let's see how it works.
leadership in the 21st century is a lot more demanding and more complex. It's about individuals who can build bridges between a number of nations, people who can navigate very complex and diverse organizations.
The world is getting increasingly interconnected. Companies are going out, buying other companies, building global supply chains in different parts of the world because it makes economic sense. So as a result, they're expecting their managers, their employees, to be able to work with people from other parts of the world.
We need to start to create a new breed of leaders, these global project leaders, who will be able to integrate practices of leadership in the context of projects where they're realizing that there are risks that have to be managed, that there are time constraints and resource constraints, and also doing it with a good sensitivity and knowledge of how do we navigate across different cultures, not just country cultures, but also functional cultures and organizational cultures.
Business requires that type of leadership. Government requires that type of leadership. Civil society requires that type of leadership.
In the real world, we need Doctors Without Borders to do their thing in addition to the Clinton Foundation, in addition to the United States Agency for International Development, in addition to Dell and Microsoft doing their activities. But it has to be coordinated. It calls for global management across these sectors.
And we still don't have a full grasp of what it takes to work effectively as a global leader in the 21st century. This dialogue is going to be really very useful and helpful in helping us understand what it is that makes a successful global leader for the 21st century.
Where we get young engineers, that's where we also try and Within Owens Corning, we have certain leadership capabilities. That is what drives the entire organization as far as development or any other implementation related is concerned. And this basically falls under two categories. One is managing change and managing the challenge, and hence each one of us are trained to handle, to be more strategic in what we are doing, to have more innovative ideas, to drive results, which is where we, on the left-hand side you see. And something on the right-hand side which is very critical, which is very important, is how do we connect with people? How do we develop people? How do we develop ourselves? And these are two things which is very important for a global organization or an approach towards becoming a global talent. I would like to share here a model that we follow at a global level. If you look at this slide, on the x-axis, you can see that right from the strategic skills till the operation. So when you have freshers who have joined, the first level leaders, you will have more of an operational skills here, and as you move up on the y-axis, you will see strategic orientation as the senior leaders. This is the roadmap towards creating global leaders within Owens Corning. It is basically within the first 3 years, everybody in Owens Corning would go through the People Fundamental Leadership Program, which focuses more on building trust, communication, driving performance, and managing teams. And then they are put on some of the programs where the person would learn to on the job. At the same time, we also pay attention on developing some functional skills in the initial stage, nothing new, and put them through some structured program, either through the company-sponsored scholarships or the open programs that we see. Psychological Associates is one more company in the US which helps this organization to identify the talent and then further groom them through various tools that we are using. And we have in-house coaches and also the coaching sessions that are part of the grooming exercise. As we move up, there are programs both in India and in the US where we have tie-up with some of the universities, and in the US it is with the University of North Carolina, where we have some foundation programs and business leadership councils. And finally we take it to the executive level programs, which is where we develop our leaders. Let me tell you, today the managing director of Owens Corning started his career in India, in Taloja plant as an operations engineer. His name is Anindya Ghosh. Within 15 years, he has gone through structured development program, and he is heading the business today of Owens Corning India. So the last slide that I showed was at a macro level, how are we organized and what is the roadmap. When we talk about India, I think great organizations or great talents can be prepared when you have a self-directed team concept which operates within the organization. And we're proud to say that in Owens Corning, Taloja plant, we operate through this concept of HPO, which is nothing but an inverted pyramid where you train, you delegate, and you give the authority to the frontline shop floor guys so that they become leaders for the task that they are doing. So they not only are involved in their own day-to-day stage gate job, but each one of them also take up an additional responsibility. That's where the real grooming or becoming a global leader comes. So each one of our employees on the shop floor is not just the employee who will do his job, but he either takes up a people leadership role for that particular department, or he takes care of the 5S, quality, cost, or safety. So that's how we in India strongly believe that Owens Corning is an enterprise of extraordinary talent, and we are on our way to creating a global organization, global talent. And we also proud to say that we have been, like HU, not in that scale, but pretty good numbers, have been able